Hello and welcome to Happy Foot, Sad Foot, your LAFC gateway drug and the only LAFC podcast that hated the Club World Cup from the beginning. I'm Travis Helwig.
I'm Vince LaRosa. I wasn't on any of the shows, so I was in on it.
I'm Darren Miller. Welcome to our preview of LAFC's MLS match versus Vancouver on Sunday, June 29th at 6:30 p.m. at BMO Stadium. It feels nice and comfy, like we're arriving home after a trip. Mm-hmm. You can watch it on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV Plus, and our live post-game call-in show will start 10 minutes after the final whistle at youtube.com/@happyfootsadfoot. But that seems like a long time to wait, so you might as well pass the time by checking out our latest merch available over at happyfootsadfootpod.com. Except for our now sold out again limited edition patron-only scarf. But tons more stuff is available on our website, and if you're a Patreon member, you get a 15% discount.
Later in the show, we'll talk to longtime friend of the foot, Luke Klipp, about Pride Republic. Maybe the longest friend of the foot we've had. He's definitely up there about Pride Republic and Pride Night this week. And of course, we'll talk about all this week's storylines and make some bets. But first, it's time for listener-mandated banter. Boys, it's been a while.
Yeah.
It has.
Anyone have any life events? Have a kid?
No children. Tried.
My son started soccer camp for the first time this week.
Oh, how's that?
You talked about it a little bit on the postgame. Tell us more.
Oh, I did. Yeah. It was just, Allie and I were like, it's a lot of pressure on us. We were like, I hope this goes well. He didn't show much interest in team sports until pretty recently. And we kind of pounced on it as soon as he did. We were like, all right, you can go to soccer camp. And we kind of dropped him off and we're like, hope this works. And he loved it. And so it was a very exciting week.
What's the scouting report?
Well, you got to start somewhere. I think that's the scouting report.
Okay.
Well, yeah. So, like, if you were doing his FIFA stats, give us like a rundown of, give us numbers.
To be honest, like, I haven't really seen him play because we just drop him off, and then we pick him up, and he's like, "Yeah, it was fun."
Yeah, you have no idea if he played soccer. He just ran around.
That's true. Maybe he's like, it was really fun. I hung out on the playground.
Yeah, it's possible he's ditching and like,
smoking cigarettes.
Yeah, smoking cigarettes at the 7-Eleven.
He's coming back and giving me enough specifics that's like, you wouldn't have known what those specific things
no ChatGPT can help.
Yeah, these kids are smart these days, you know?
If I snuck out of my house to smoke cigarettes at 7-Eleven and I want to convince my dad I was at soccer camp, what's something I would learn on the first day?
No, he did actually start conversations with me about how, like, he didn't expressly ask me for this, but he needed ammo in what seemed like an ongoing debate where new friends at camp were arguing Ronaldo over Messi, and he felt like he had to fight back. So he was asking for
and
like
you
ammo
immediately told him about the possible charges being filed in Las Vegas.
Well, listen, I think one of the main things you should start with is the off the field stuff.
That got me. That was a good joke. So he knows about like the different channels and everything. He understands.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I'm not teaching
all the
him
technical
that.
terms.
I'm not.
Yeah, we should, in a year, we should do a you versus him technical term challenge.
Amazing.
Well, he has the ability to eclipse me pretty quickly if he wants to.
I mean, I've just been watching Club World Cup and talking about it here. This is my 100th episode in a week.
Wow, that sounds incredibly depressing. Well, I shouldn't speak because I did actually watch the Juventus game, and the only Juventus game I watched was the game that they got the shit kicked out of them by Man City, which was kind of to be expected, to be honest.
They're still moving on, right?
Yeah, there's certain things in the game that, like, and you shouldn't do this about a lot of things, but there's certain stereotypes that are true. And if an Italian team has nothing to play for, they're not going to show up. And that's for good and bad. So, like,
they did physically show up, which seems
physically
like
they're there,
something.
but mentally they are Darren on the podcast. They're checked out.
Tough week for Italians. Them, Andrew Cuomo, really was a rough week.
Wow, what a segue.
They had to be stuck in the White House. How about that?
Oh yeah, that was so funny.
Oh yeah,
I can like feel so bad for them, especially when you find out that they were basically told like, "Hey, we're going to an event at the White House," and they were like, "Okay, I mean, it is what it is." And then next thing they know, they're like, "Wait, is there a press conference going on? Why are we in here? Is he going to ask us questions?" Like,
no, he's not going to ask you questions. He's going to talk about bombing Iran with you right behind him.
Yeah.
We did ask them questions. He asked them if they thought women could play for their team.
Oh yeah,
and all of them were like, we already don't want to be here. And then a director of Juventus was like,
Italian.
We actually have a pretty good women's team because they've won like Serie A like the last couple of years. He's like, yeah, but, and all the players are like, oh, he's not going to let it go. You shouldn't have answered him.
Oh man.
Oof.
Did
What a
Cuomo
great
visit
time
the
to
White
be
House
alive.
or?
No, it was just good old Johnny. Oh, by the way, the only soccer related person in that press opportunity having fun was Johnny Infantino. He had the biggest smile on his face, loved every minute of it, while every single Juventus player and technical director, even the owner, was like, I don't want to be here.
It is like Trump being president is so good for FIFA because they're like, all we know how to do is bribe and take bribes. So this is wonderful. Like, finally, we understand American politics.
FIFA has always been very Trumpy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. Well, I feel like that's good. We covered all the bases. Should we start the show?
I don't know that there's anything going on in the world that we didn't just cover.
Yeah, we got it all.
Yep. That's the news, folks. Well, as the more casually obsessed LAFC fan on this show, I love LAFC and I'll never miss a match, but I don't have time to stay on top of all the advanced stats, roster moves, rumors, tactics, and off-the-field drama that I can't get from just watching the matches. When all I see watching a match is ball get kicked, ball go in net, French man flip, opposing team immediately even the score within seconds, other Frenchmen become subject of trade rumors. Luckily, my friends Travis, the human LAFC crazy wall, and Vince, the LAFC patron saint of tactics, are here to catch me up every week on the most important storylines that live beneath the surface of every match so we can all enjoy them so much more in a segment we call Storylines.
Just remembered, we're not going to hear the Club World Cup remix.
Yeah, the trusty regular storyline song.
And it's possible for we better be doing this podcast in 28 years the next time we qualify for the Club World Cup.
Yikes.
Darren,
4 years is a good time span for a rebuild.
Darren, Vince, Dince, I come to you showering off the stench of that cash grab tournament, the Club World Cup, that we absolutely never cared about, to bring you this week's storylines. And the first one, I think, is the one on everyone's mind. And it's this. How will LAFC adapt to playing regular old league games? We have just played easily the toughest competition our club has ever faced against Chelsea, Flamengo, and so our YouTube comment section doesn't get massacred by Tunisians again, the absolutely massive African powerhouse who is the best club on earth, Esperance. And now...
Agreed.
And no one say anything bad about Esperance, please. And now, in the weeks...
I like the little guy on the crest. He's cute.
Yeah. Their fans are great, just not in the comments. And now, in the weeks before the Leagues Cup, we have a few weeks before, we just have to get back into the groove of trying to remain in playoff contention, knowing that Supporter Shield is probably already out of reach for LAFC. So as a refresher, it's been a while. We currently stand 6th in the West with 26 points on the season. That's 10 points behind first place San Diego, but we do have 3 games in hand because of this tournament. Everyone else has played 3 games while we were busy playing more important games. But before the Club World Cup, we had gone unbeaten 9 straight games. So Vince, we haven't heard from you about the Club World Cup at all. And I'm curious, with some space away from it now, what did you take away from our time in the tournament? Do you think it was a failure for the club in any way? And what's your feeling? How are you feeling about the tournament now that last time we talked was before we played a game? We're talking again at the end.
Yeah. One of the things that we learned is what tournament football is like, and it's cruel. It's tough. It's razor thin margins. Like if you think about, just try to be like a very objective observer of LAFC from like a really high level view. First game against the team that you absolutely don't expect to get anything out of, and there's a very good possibility you could have ended that game 1-1. Like I think we all can agree, LAFC played well enough to get a point from that game. And had they gotten a point from that game, imagine the possibilities, right? Imagine the feelings within the locker room, the confidence level, but that doesn't happen. Then you start your next game and absolutely, this is the game that we should be winning. No offense to Esperance fans, but this is the game that they probably singled out where they said, this is one where we got to get back on track, get the 3 points, and then we find out where we stand against Flamengo and we see what we can do. You score 2 goals, both are offside. And then you basically wither throughout the game and have probably your worst stretch of the tournament. And all through that, you still have a chance to end that game 1-1 and get a point out of it. And you bet your best player has a penalty save. So if you're LAFC, you're just like you just went from bad to worse. And as we've learned, it didn't matter. Like, it didn't matter because you're out. Now 2 games, you're out. So like I said, the margins are so razor thin, and I can kind of feel for these guys. Like they did go through a roller coaster, and I know a lot of people are just heaping blame on them, saying it's all their fault. But like, when you put it the way I put it, it is kind of crazy how this tournament went for them, and the swings that they had, and the highs and lows. In terms of actually learning anything about LAFC, I didn't learn too much. We learned that they played to the level of their competition, for better or for worse. They played up to Chelsea, played down in the next game, brought it back up against Flamengo, but then kind of ran out of gas because they don't have much depth, which is another thing we kind of know about LAFC. I don't really want to talk too much about individual player performances because it's just such a small sample size. I know a lot of people are saying, well, that's what that person's been like, or that player's been like all season, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's fine. But I think tournaments are their own thing. It's kind of why, and this is it's similar vein, but a different way to say it. Never buy a player that has a great tournament. It's just such a small sample size with so much noise, so much luck, so many bounces, as we saw almost all win against LAFC. But you just can't make very overarching determinations about tournament play. It was disappointing. LAFC probably should have done better. I don't think anyone should be particularly... I mean, they should be proud. I will say that. Like, I don't think in any regard should you not be proud to have been one of the first competitors to play in this tournament, which is essentially...
And historically, the very first to get out of the tournament. And I think that's something we should be proud of.
Yeah, you can still take away from that. But I mean, you had to beat who we all think is the best team on the continent just to get into it. And then you're one of the 32 best teams in the world. I don't think, regardless of when you go out, you should ever be completely down on a team like that. But yeah, I think they walk away kicking themselves a little bit and asking a lot of questions, but at the same time, kind of feeling like this is kind of how we've played. We've played up and down to our competition. We struggle to break down teams that sit with a lot of players behind the ball. Didn't really learn much in that regard.
Before I forget, something we haven't really talked about, Danny Bouanga had the missed PKs. Last season, he couldn't miss. I feel like he's missed more than he's made this season. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I know he's missed a couple so far this year.
He might be
I think that it's, I mean, that's not good. That's a bad record.
I'm on it.
No. And you remember there was a time when Carlos missed a couple and everyone was like, oh my God. And end of the day, I mean, penalties really are a confidence thing, especially the way he takes them. He clearly takes them in a way where he's trying to kind of outweight the goalkeeper and then hit it as hard as he can without much really thought to precision. Just like, if I hit as hard as I can and I get the goalkeeper guessing wrong, I'm never going to miss. Like, he's hitting him in a way that he's not going to miss the frame, which is not a bad strategy when you think about taking penalties, because when you miss the frame completely, you give yourself zero chance, right? Mm-hmm. It's been a little bit the way his season's been, right? There's been some chances he's missed that you feel like he should have made. I think that a different Denny Bouanga scores that chance against Chelsea, right? And so, again, it's unfortunate, but I don't put too much stock into it, other than we'll have to see how this team recovers, because it was a lot of games in a short amount of time. And to your point, Travis, one of the good things is they didn't lose much ground. They only really have things to gain from this, but games in hand are only good if you win them.
And I mean, I am curious if Nathan Ordaz, when he can come back healthy, if Hugo picked up any sort of permanent knock in that game that he might need to take some time off. We'll see, obviously, in a couple days. Darren, we've been inconsistent all year as a club. I feel like it's the only thing we've been consistent at. Knowing this team, how do you think LAFC will respond to being back in leagues play? Will they suddenly be more confident because they could hold their own against these big clubs? Or will they regress into who cares mode because it feels less important than this tournament that they just exhausted themselves in?
I'm cautiously optimistic that it's the former. I think that I am really happy that they're coming back to Vancouver, a team that isn't necessarily as good as their record suggests, and their record does put them toward the top of the table. So it's not a game that they're going to be lazy about. Like they'll be like, okay, we're coming back and we're going to take the game seriously. So it's the test that I want them to have to take, and we will find out the answer to that question. But I think they're going to, like you mentioned on the post game, you mentioned like warming up to bat and baseball with a donut on. I'm hoping they feel that when they go out there, and the best impact that could have is like the very beginning of the game. They come out with a little bit more juice in them, which is, I think, a problem they've struggled with all season.
I do wonder if the game just feels slower suddenly if you've played 3 games against the best competition possible. It's just like, I can see it slightly different. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. So the summer transfer window is currently open in Europe, and we're less than a month from the summer transfer window opening up here in Major League Soccer, which brings us to our second storyline of the week, which is this. Just what will the team look like come this time next month? Rumor season is in full swing with lots of roster questions looming over our heads. The most credible rumor coming from our friend Tom Bogert, or as they say in France, Hamburger, who said there have been preliminary talks to sell our superstar, Olivier Giroud. And I just want to remind everyone, we're trying to sell him. He is a superstar. He is really good. Olivier Giroud.
No, not him. Anyone but him.
Please don't take Olivier Giroud, our superstar, Lille Olympic Sporting Club. I looked up how to say it because I was unsure, and now I just wrote Lille Olympic Sporting Club.
For some reason, all I think of when I see the name of their club is Eli Lilly, the pharmaceutical company.
Eli Lilly Sporting Club, or LAFC. Now, this is something Vince actually has hinted at before on the show, not in any sort of knowledgeable way, but he said it's possible that both sides might want to save face. And that seems like what might be happening here. It's mutually beneficial for both sides to find something for Olivier. And just today, a man named Pete O'Rourke from Footy Insider, which I don't know if I have no idea how credible it is, but he's got a lot of followers, said that Giroud has officially agreed to a deal to head to LOSC, but nothing in America is real until Tom Bogert says so. Hamburger says so. Hamburger went on to pour some water on the rumors that were swirling around about Bouanga heading to Club America, which feels like anytime we do well against a Mexican team, there is then a rumor the next week that Denny Bouanga is going to that team. Just something for everyone to keep in mind. He called it, quote, nonsense as of right now. And on top of that, we also have the Dilrosun signing, which we were told was temporary for the tournament, and we'll see in the coming weeks if we decide to hold on to him or not. We might know sooner than later, but as of today, we don't know what's going on with Dilrosun. But potentially by summer, according to these rumors, we will have freed up all 3 DP slots, which means a major roster overhaul is coming. I have a feeling that won't be the case, but according to the internet this week, we will have no DPs very soon. And I also want to remind people, most of our major club signings, like big name club signings, have come in the summer. Gareth Bale and Olivier Giroud both came as summer transfers for the club. And Griezmann, of course, will be a summer transfer in 2029. And just for good measure, I want to bring in the last rumor that came out today. The BBC reported that LAFC has approached former Tottenham Hotspur coach Ange Postecoglou to see if he would be interested in becoming our next head coach. A lot of Spurs fans were upset about Ange being fired. This seems too good to be true, but it is the BBC saying it, so it's at least worth paying attention to. It's not a random dude on Twitter. It's the BBC, a pretty credible news organization, saying that at least they have approached Ange to see if he would be interested. Ange has also been linked to a Saudi club who undoubtedly can pay him more than we can. First off, Vince, what do you make of all of those rumors I just said, and what do you think it means for our roster moving forward?
This is like a speed round, right? Olivier Giroud.
Let's go through. Giroud, is he gone in the next week?
I think there's a very good chance, like you alluded to, this would be the way that you would do it, right? It saves face for everybody. I think at the end of the day, LAFC would never unilaterally terminate the contract of a player like that. But if a team in which he says, yes, I would like to be there, that's fine. That's back in my home country and in a fairly good team as well. Like Lille is perennially a Champions League contender. I believe they came in 5th this past season, so they won't play Champions League. Maybe they have Europa League football, but he could go there. They are losing Jonathan David, the Canadian striker, so there will be some space for him to play. I'm not a big fan
of what they've done with insulin. I just want to put that out there.
All right. I would imagine.
I feel like it would be a problem if I didn't say it.
Yeah. I mean, we'll take that up with John Thorrington.
Thank you.
I would imagine that there won't be any kind of transfer fee. So it'll be as if they kind of terminated the deal, but he's able to go. Now, if they pick up any of his salary, that will be interesting. LAFC could decide to still pay a little bit of his salary because he does make a wage that for a Lille team they could probably afford, but generally speaking, they probably wouldn't want to have him at that high of a wage at this age. So it's interesting. I do think that it's something that really could happen. And for LAFC fans, whatever you feel about Olivier Giroud, the fact that it would be happening as early as it would be in the window is the best case scenario for LAFC to kind of move through and then have that opening when our window opens on the 24th. For Bouanga and Dilrosun, I would say one way to spot these things as probably not being factually true is whenever you see a report that says, well, this player is going to go to that team because that team has a possible loan option. And basically that's going to be how they're going to balance out. They're almost going to trade players and then there's going to be some money. Almost never happens that way. Deals just trades and stuff like that just don't really happen internationally. So whenever you see something like that, always be skeptical and think, oh, wait, is this just somebody connecting the dots because it seems plausible? Yep. Okay. They've done this and they've got me again. And there's my click. Okay. I won't tell anyone I clicked on that story. Finally, for Ange Postecoglou, interesting story.
Quickly, before you go to Ange, Dilrosun. Do you think Dilrosun's sticking around with the club? Like initially it was just for the tournament. I mean, how do you feel about his chances of being on the roster on Sunday even?
Right. I mean, I think he's on I would assume he's on the roster because what do they know about him at this point? Right. Mm-hmm. Like obviously they get to see him in training. They know a little bit of like his physical, because one of the things that you're doing also is like, you want to know, like, is this guy fast? Is he like, we got a good eye on him, but now LAFC, he's wearing, I don't know if people have seen this. The guys wear the kind of sports bras underneath. Mm-hmm. That obviously takes a lot of metrics and a lot of different data that LAFC can use. And now they know like literally just how fast this guy is and how many runs he can do at high speed and things like that through training and through games. That stuff is getting more and more important for clubs because it's also sometimes a predictor of injury. It's a predictor of future performance. You don't have that though until you have a player within your ranks, right? Like the other like if I'm Club America, they have that information. They're not sharing that because it puts them at a deficit, right? Obviously if the player's stuff's all great, that's good. But what if it wasn't? And LAFC just like, we're watching this guy, he's pretty good. We'll give you $10 million for it. And they know secretly, yeah, well, he's actually year over year, his stats have been down, his runs have been down, his pace has been down. You wouldn't want to share that. But now LAFC has some of that data. So I would still think they need to get a bigger look at him. I didn't see anything from those games that necessarily made me think he was a DP, but it's also kind of unfair to say like, oh, you didn't wow me, you'll never be good. I mean, he didn't
play in the first game and he played like 20 minutes in the third, right? So it's not a huge sample size for him.
Yeah, not a huge sample size, but he has played at a high level before. But obviously you don't want to reward a guy for past performances. You need to get him for the future. So I honestly don't know what to make of that. I think it could go either way. And I don't think anyone that tells you they know for sure doesn't know because they don't have the information that the club does. Moving on to the coaching, it's very interesting. Ange Postecoglou is an interesting coach. I'll say in terms of people that want a coach that is outspoken, he's very outspoken. I actually really enjoy his press conferences because he's doesn't give a lot of coach speak and he's actually very human. He went through a really tough season at Tottenham in which he won a trophy, that he won the Europa League, that got Tottenham into the Champions League, but in the league they were garbage. Like they're just above relegation. A lot of it had to do with injuries, but a lot of it had to do with him not changing his style through the injuries. He's very adamant about the way he wants to play. He plays in a way that uses the ball. It's fast. It's a high line. It just is almost suicidal when you think about the injuries that he had to then roll guys out there and go, I still want to play a high line and we'll still give a lot of space up, but I want to play fast and I want to have the ball and I want to do this. He just never changed. And a lot of pundits crushed him for it. And some of them went a little too far in some of the things that they said. And what I loved about him is he basically called people out and he would be like, you can't talk to me like this. I'm a human being. Like I have done things and I understand maybe my team's not doing so well, but this and this. And so I really respect him. I think his football is interesting. I would say the team as currently put together is absolutely not the type of team that he would want. They don't have the profile for it. You need guys that can play out the back. You need a lot of possession structure. It would be very almost night and day to the way that LAFC plays now.
He famously says he always wins a trophy in his second season, right? And he did. He did with Tottenham. So we would win a trophy in 2027 if he comes next year.
And look, he's proven in different areas. He came from Australian football, went to Scotland. He has shown he can move to different countries and different leagues and be successful. And again, I like his football. And there's always turnover every year in MLS, but there would have to be a pretty substantial change in a lot of the player profiles that LAFC currently has in order to play his style of play to the level he wants to play it. And again, this is a man that has been very adamant he does not change. So something's got to give there. But he's an exciting coach. Like, that's the type. I would just say this: if you're a fan and you want ambition from your club, that's the type of name you want to be linked to. That's like, I think it's a realistic name, right? Like, Pep Guardiola is not coming here. Ange Postecoglou, that's pretty good.
Darren, going back to Giroud, if he's gone in the next few days or next few weeks, how will you remember his time with the club? Only sad feet, or are there some happy feet? How are you feeling about part of our history, Olivier Giroud?
Huge disappointment. I'm not as aware of world football as most people are, and he was sold to me as something that was very different than what arrived in LA and played in LA. That said, there was always a certain expertise that he showed when he played in very little things, which is not nearly enough, but there were very little things that he did that I am a little worried that we might have the syndrome we've had with players like Vela and Birad, where it's like we complain when they're here and then we realize they're leaving a hole that we didn't realize they'd be leaving when they leave. I think having the ability to play someone else instead of him is always a plus, especially with the salary room that he'll gain. So that will gain because he leaves. So I don't think it's that big of an issue, but I do think we need someone who can make small passes and extend plays and be accurate with intention. And we obviously also need someone who can finish, which he was supposed to do and couldn't do. But the other things that he could do, I'm not seeing it from anyone else. So I don't know.
You can't teach height, right?
Yeah. Really, that's what he was. On corner kicks, people were worried about him. That's pretty much all he did.
He's ginormous.
I'm also very worried about, look, we've said this before a number of times. We say it every year. It's very important to this club and to us, of course, that we maintain status as the hottest team in MLS. And that's the biggest thing. It wasn't supposed to be the biggest thing he brought to the table, but it ended up being the biggest thing he brought to the table, and it's not nothing. So we are going to have to make up for that.
Thigh miss Olivier or thigh don't miss Olivier?
I love that caliber of player is looking at LAFC and they're able to land him, but I'm going to disagree with Darren here, who believes he still has something in him. I think he's cooked, man. The way he was never like a speed guy, but the way he would move with the ball at Milan just like a year ago versus the way I've seen him move with the ball now, I'm like, it's totally different. And sometimes that happens, man. Your legs just go. I know a lot of people think that Steve never put the system towards him, but I don't know what to what extreme you would have to put the system towards him. Like,
he ended up.
Could you play half court soccer? Could we do half court soccer?
He ended up having enough balls right to his head that it was like, oh, this is exactly the moment you're supposed to shine, and you're still not doing it. Where it's like, okay, this is kind of convincing.
Yeah, like I think he'll go, if he goes to Lille, I still think he'll be a nice compliment. I don't think he's a starter there. And the game, is played in a different way there, and maybe there will be chances for him to succeed in a different format, but he's not the guy. And when you come to MLS, you have to be the guy. He would definitely not be.
Especially if you're a DP.
Yeah, he would not be the guy for Lille.
Our final storyline of the week is this. Is Vancouver better than Tunisian powerhouse, our bitter rival, the super club Esperance? For those of you who can remember back before the Club World Cup, Vancouver was having an excellent season all season long, getting rid of the friend of the pod, Vanni Sartini, and then going on an incredible run. But on Wednesday evening, they lost their place at the top of the West after falling to San Diego 5-3. They have 35 points to our 26, but again, we have 2 games in hand on them. They have been going through a bit of a rough patch as much as they have this season since we drew with them up in Vancouver on May 11th, 2-2. Since then, they drew a team called Valor FC in the Canadian Championship quarterfinals. Valor is currently 7th in the Canadian League. They also lost 5-0 to Cruz Azul in the finals of CONCACAF Champions Cup, which we know sometimes there could be a long hangover after you lose in the final of CONCACAF Champions Cup. And in leagues play, since we last played them, they have 2 wins, 2 losses, and not including us, they've had 2 draws. Not exactly the dominant team we were worried about last time we talked about them. However, their 2 losses since then were against San Diego and Columbus, 2 top teams in the league. Vince, what do we need to know about Vancouver this season? What has changed since last time we played them? Did we break them? Have they been exposed, or it's just a bit of a rough patch? What do you think?
I don't think we broke them, but
we broke them, right?
I think we probably broke them.
Cruz Azul might have broke them. It is interesting that
I think we broke them.
Matty Bogusz used to go here.
Yeah, Matty was definitely watching our game, and then he went to training the next day and was like, Coach, my old team, this is how they played against him. I've got some ideas. And the guy was like, please sit down. But it is interesting that these teams are both coming off of disappointments, right? Like, we're both going to see kind of, and like, obviously Vancouver's maybe a little bit farther ahead, and they're realizing that, you know, it sucks losing in big games and then having to trudge out the rest of the MLS season. And then we'll get to find out from LAFC. I mean, this is absolutely a game that LAFC, regardless of, like we said, the condensed schedule in the Club World Cup and worrying about games at hand and coming back into MLS, like, they should be, 1, they're at home. 2, this is a team that you played pretty well away from home when they had all their players, but they're going to be missing a significant amount of players due to international duty because of the Gold Cup. Sebastian Berhalter's out. Brian White is out. Jaden Nelson. Those are all, if you're even a remotely sentient MLS fan, those are probably the 3 Vancouver players that you can name. Okay, maybe Ryan Gauld, but he's been out for a long time. So they have weathered, and actually Sam Adekugbe is out for the season with an Achilles injury. So, like, not only did they have a disappointment, but they're dealing with injuries. Obviously, Gauld went out really early in the season, and they proved that they can still be effective and a good team because, you know, they're kind of the opposites of LAFC. They're in a format and in a game model in which the game model makes the players better. Whereas LAFC plays a game model that their players make the game model better. That's why the game model is basically geared towards Denny Bouanga. Like, if they look at it and say, this guy is so incredible, LAFC goes, why don't we create something that just, if he does it right, we're going to win. Whereas Vancouver can kind of lose some players, and the system, because they're all interchangeable parts, the system wins games. But seeing the amount of guys that are out, there is a breaking point to it, right? They still have some talent, but there's a lot of guys out. So LAFC has to absolutely not just want to make a statement now that they're back in regular season play and they've got all these games at hand, but Vancouver is ripe for the taking with the players that are out. Yes, they'll be upset that they just lost to San Diego and maybe, you know, want to play a little bit harder, but like, they don't have the guys like this, and they should also be somewhat tired. So there's no value to them of not having played in the Club World Cup. Like, they still had to play a lot of games in a short amount of time as well.
I was going to say, I was worried about our own fatigue, but they've played more recently than we did. We played on Monday. They played on Wednesday. No, when did we play? Tuesday? When was our last game? Yeah. So they played a game more recently than we have. So it'll be interesting to see if fatigue sets in. I also want to say their new coach, maybe the ugliest coach in Major League Soccer. I think we should go through all of them, but I think he's probably he's a very ugly man. Darren, final question in the storylines. Have you ever been to Vancouver?
I've never been to Vancouver. I've always wanted to go. I think I've heard great things. You know, they call it the Hollywood of Canada.
Not
Travis.
anymore. We got that tax credit, baby. We're coming back. Bring back Hollywood to Hollywood, right? Am I right, boys?
Is shot in Los Angeles, I hear.
Now available. Well, no, Emmy nominations are closed. I'll let you guys know when Emmy voting is happening. When we come back,
we're definitely voters. So
I'm sure we got 1 or 2 listening. When we come back, we're going to talk about Pride Night coming up this Sunday with former president of Pride Republic and friend of the foot, Luke Klipp. And we're back. He's the former president of Pride Republic, the LGBTQ supporters group in the 3252, and part of the pod fam over at LGBTFC. He's our friend all the time and a caller sometimes. Please welcome to the show, Luke Klipp.
Hey, it's great to be here, guys. I'm glad you think I only call sometimes. I feel like I'm like always calling in. Whenever there's a chance, like I'm leaving the game, I'm just like, all right, calling in.
We always love to hear from you.
A staple.
A staple. Yeah, part of the zoo crew.
Like oats, like oats or, some grain, a staple.
Graham Nash.
Water even.
So many different references.
So look, we put you on the spot during our post game 2 days ago, asking you to be here tonight because Sunday night against Vancouver is Pride Night, and I want you to talk a little bit about Pride Night, and then we'll learn a lot more about the stuff you've been doing around the club.
Yeah, sure. Pride Night is the one game every year where LAFC celebrates the LGBTQ plus community as a club, from the front office to the team to in the stands. It is our opportunity to embrace this important part of our community here in Los Angeles. We've been doing it since the very first season. And so some years we have a TIFO, the 3252 do. This year there won't be a TIFO, but we also will be doing other things as well. There's usually some kind of giveaway that's Pride themed. There's a Pride themed tailgate before the game. Last year we had a whole fireworks show after the game, which was cool as hell. So, there's all kinds of stuff going on. It's also an opportunity to uplift people within the LGBT community that they'll present on the field before the match, at halftime. So it's a great celebration for the community.
I think we've talked about it a little bit before, but it was a few years ago now, and no one listened to the show the first season. Tell us what it means to have a club like LAFC show support both in the stands and from an institutional level, because that's not common. A lot of the times clubs, especially the ownership, do not want to touch anything that is political. And it feels like it's gotten more political since the club started, weirdly. And I'm just curious what it means to you and the other members of Pride Republic to have such a supportive fan base.
It's not even common in MLS. MLS is, There are some teams that are quite supportive and embrace their LGBT community supporters. And there's other clubs, not going to name names, that do a terrible job.
Do it.
So no, I'm not gonna go there. I like a hot take every so often, but I'm gonna leave that one to everyone's.
It's probably Salt Lake City, right? It's got to be Salt Lake City.
No comment. So look, I will just say that
Mormons go hard on Friday night.
Look, it is hard for me to put into words the experience of growing up as a kid, knowing that you're gay or knowing you're different, right? And what that means with how you relate to other people in your social circles, your friends, where you have opportunities to get involved in things. And as a young gay kid, I realized early on that team sports was not a place I was welcome. That young men's team sports was a place that was scary for someone who was gay. And I felt like it was not a place that I had a home. And it was very clear as I was growing up, like this was a place that men's team sports in particular tend to lean fairly homophobic or at least hostile to young gay and bisexual men. And so I just sort of stayed away from it. And I never really felt like it was a place for me. So coming back to this now, I'm not going to say how many more years later, but I've had a few years.
At least 4.
What's that?
At least 4 since you graduated high school, right?
Correct. And at least, yes, that is technically correct. And, being in a place, in a space where community that I would not have ever felt like I could be welcomed and embraced, and to actually be welcomed and embraced as much as I and others in this community have in LAFC, I can't put it into words. I can try, but I'm not going to do it justice. All I can tell you is that just thinking about it, I get goosebumps. It is hard to describe when you've spent years of your life feeling excluded and unwelcome to suddenly be in a space with people who you would typically feel are part of that, who are actually saying, not only are you welcome, we embrace you, we see you, we want you here. And that is not just LAFC. It is also because of the 3252 and how they have embraced the LGBTQ community as part of our supporters culture.
And I know that I think it was this weekend, right? Or when was the parade that everybody marched in?
It was a couple weeks ago. LA Pride is the second Sunday in June, which is
okay. They just posted it today.
They
to the LAFC
today in
Instagram.
advance
they waited.
of the Pride Night, which is happening on Sunday.
Seems like they kind of held. They should have done it then, and they could do it again now. I'm sure there's enough photos.
Sure. Have you ever done post? Oh wait, no, that's Darren that does all the posts. Yeah, they've got all that video and all those photos, and they got to put it all together, Travis.
You guys talking
as
about
far
digital
as we know,
content
it
scheduling?
magically appears. I don't know what you're talking about, Luke. Every time we do a podcast or we need a video or anything, Travis and I wake up in the morning and magically it's on our phones.
And it's on Instagram, and Darren has done that too.
Travis actually does. I should say out loud. The narrative is getting out of control. Travis does the social posts.
Oh,
the stuff that people don't like. That's what I do. The show itself.
Not all of
it.
The posting of the videos that I do edit.
Yeah, so talk about marching in the parade and what it's like to represent the club for the city, and especially right now.
Well, it's like you said, it's been about 4 years since I graduated high school. I've been in a few pride parades in my life, typically with like a political thing or whatever. It is entirely different to get to do that with LAFC. For starters, we don't have to learn a dance or a song or whatever, because we literally just do what happens in the North End at every game. And I have heard from many, many people, and I would agree with this completely, it is harder to do that on the parade route when you're walking for a couple miles in the 80-plus degree sun than it is to do it in the North End. I know no hate at all to being in the North End. It's an incredible experience. But being out there and you're getting all that energy back from the folks along the side who are like encouraging you to go even harder and go even further with that. It's just sort of like, wow, by the time you're done with this, like, all right, great. I need to go have a drink and call it a day. But it's just this incredible experience to be able to do that with so many people who are allies, right? And I need to note that like one of the things that's really important to me about the LAFC community is this motto that we have of shoulder to shoulder. To me, that is the embodiment of allyship. It is what makes it possible to be part of a community that is a vulnerable community, that would be a minority, that would typically be looked down upon by the majority, but instead to have people holding you up and saying, I got you. And to me, that is what makes this such a beautiful environment. And also, I talked about this recently with some other folks. It is also why when I see what happened with our last home game, where we had all of the protests in the stands and the 3252 staying silent for almost the entire game, that I feel compelled to be an ally and stand shoulder to shoulder with our immigrant community, because they've given so much to me and it's important to me to give back to them.
That's a great point, and I'm happy you brought it up, because I noticed that all three of us have LA Abolish ICE shirts on, and
that's
Vince
true.
Does not have one on, and I'm curious, Vince, you did get a job. Is it with ICE?
Oh, that's not funny. I thought you were going to ask me if my shirt was in the mail. That would have been a nicer way to put it, Travis.
You started the wildfires.
I'll just go. I'm just a general delinquent in the county of Los Angeles, in the city of Los Angeles. And this is, look, I'm not telling anybody anything new. So I'm just going to gloss over that. We all know these things. I'm just going to go ahead and ask my question. Luke, I would like to talk about a great tradition that the Pride Republic Supporters Group has. And if you could explain it a little more and tell people how maybe they can get involved. I, as you know, love the halftime photo. I think that the halftime photo there on the northeast corner of the stadium that is done, I want to say it's pretty much every game. Every game, you get together, you take a photo. It's just, I don't know. There's just something special about it to me, that it's a tradition that I really love, and one that I don't think people talk about enough. So could you just explain it? And then for anybody that maybe is curious about Pride Republic or just wants to like come by and like be in a cool photo, can you tell them how they can get involved?
Yeah.
Pride curious. Anyone who's pride curious.
We love pride curious. There is another. I'm sure there are more letters we can append to LGBTQ for the pride curious community.
No, that's what the plus is for. We're
that's
done.
What the plus is for.
Make FC a permanent part of it, and that's what the C is for.
Mm-hmm.
So look, a lot of supporter groups do a photo before the game, right? Like at the tailgate. We have found through trial and error that a lot of our supporters don't often come to the tailgate, or they'll come but a little bit later after things are sort of breaking down, because a lot of the folks with the 3252, they break their stuff down two hours before kickoff so they can all get into the north end. A lot of our supporters, a little different, right? So we have found that one of the ways that we can really create some instant sort of community is having this halftime meetup. It is every game, every home game, every single home game, northeast corner. So where the Los Angeles sign is over the entrance, it's sort of like where you look famously when you're looking toward downtown. It's that entrance of the stadium. And at the 7-minute mark, when the countdown of halftime hits 7 minutes, we take a photo. That's it. So people sort of arrive and get there as they do up until that point. We do a photo and then people disperse. People can stick around, chat, whatever they want to do. I tend to want to get back to my seat because I sit all the way on the other end of the stadium. And so I don't have a lot of time to just chill if I want to see the game, and I want to see the game. But it is fun
to if you are on the other side of the stadium, it's fun to race against the clock to get there on time.
See if you can get there on time.
Yeah.
And like weave through everybody. And you're like, I got somewhere to be, people. You guys are moseying around seeing what concession stand to go to. I've got plans.
As soon as I hear the call Jacob and the Oye Mi Amor, I know I've got 3 minutes to get to my seat. So,
Well, thank you for letting us crash it a few times as well. We've taken it over and done. It was the pride photo and then the happy foot, sad foot.
Look, I just took that as allyship. I don't understand if you're saying crashing. I took that as we got some more allies.
No, that's not what it was. Let's not get it confused.
No, it was not. How dare you? Me?
I think that's a really good example of a low effort but proactive, clear way. It's not like it goes an incredibly long way, but I think just a photo and a commemoration of there is a lot of allyship here. There is a big community here. We're proving it in real time. That is a good way for a good starting point for people who want to actually be proactive and be part of it. And it's fantastic that obviously your instinct on your part was to be an ally when that was called for as well. But are there other ways that people can be a little bit more alert about it and come up with ways that wherever you're in the stadium, or just ways to uphold what is yes, it's great that it's like that, but I also don't think people should take it for granted either. We should do as much as we can proactively to protect it.
Yeah, I would say don't assume that just because a thing exists, it always will, or that just because you said something that was supportive a year or two ago, that it still means something today. I think it's important for people to continue to reaffirm allyship in whatever way they can. I still remember having conversations with some folks who were like, well, we did this thing a few years ago. And I was like, yeah, that was great. And also there's been so many more people who have come to this in the years since who have no idea that you did that. And so that is part of the nature of this, of creating community and maintaining community, is speak up, make your voice known. That is how we sort of continue to sort of grow this beyond just sort of, wherever it is at the moment.
I have one final question, and it's something that comes up anytime we talk about anything vaguely political on this show. We'll get some sort of comment or we'll see somewhere people say, stick to sports or stick to soccer. I come here for soccer. What do you say to people that when they hear, we've talked about how we feel about it, but I'm curious how you feel about people when they say that's not what this is for. I go to a soccer game. I just want to pay attention to soccer.
Yeah. Look, my ability to be who I am is political. For our members, that is, for almost all our members, that is the case. For our transgender members, who some cases don't really feel like they can be public about it because they fear for their safety, their existence is political, right? I think it's important for us to remember, especially in this moment where we're sort of feeling rightly that we're almost sort of dealing with an invasion from our own government coming into our communities and wreaking havoc, that Pride is in June because back in 1969, at the Stonewall Bar in Greenwich Village, Manhattan, police raided that bar, this queer bar, and folks fought back. And they fought back for days. It was a multi-day thing that happened, but they were sick and tired of the police raiding the bars like they would do all the time, because being LGBTQ in that time was against the law. right? You could be arrested for being LGBTQ. And so that was conveyed in the papers as the Stonewall riots. But the people in that Stonewall bar didn't want to riot. They just wanted to live. And so I think the point that people make about, you're getting political. Well, I'm sorry that, I don't get to have the luxury of just being myself and have it not be political, right? I wish that we could all have that. But until we do, I'm going to be political because that's just the life I have to live, right? If I'm going to make space for others to come behind me, if I'm going to make space for those who aren't LGBTQ, who have other things going on in their lives that I want to help support them, it's going to be political. And that's sort of just the nature of the beast. But that also means it's all that more special to me, at least, when we can be in this space and just disconnect for those 90 minutes and love what we get to see on the pitch and enjoy and relish those moments. That makes it that much more sweet and that much more special to be together.
I think that's a really wonderful place to leave it. Remind everyone where they can find you if they want to follow you, besides in our postgame.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at LAFC.Luke, Luke. So
there's
LAFC
another Luke, right? There's two LAFC.
Yeah, LAFC Luke without the dots. Dude who's over at LAFC. Guy, I came too late to that party. So it's LAFC.Luke. On Instagram.
Wait, who's this other
guy?
Who
works at the club, right?
Works at the club. I know.
Still?
I don't know.
Get him out of there.
He's not LAFC Luke.
He's not
he
LAFC
needs to
Luke.
know at this point. He's not LAFC Luke.
He's
people
Luke
know you as LAFC
He's
Luke.
Luke at LAFC.
Look,
good point.
I want to say I met him years ago. He's a good guy.
I'm sure he is, nice but he's misguided.
Anyone listening right now that wants to show their support for Pride Night and Pride Republic, show up early, hang out at the tailgate, go to the photo at halftime, say hi to Luke. I just want to say, Luke, I'm so thankful that you're a member of this community and that Pride Republic is a member of the 3252. It makes the club so much better.
Thanks, Travis. And one more thing, you can find Pride Republic at LAFC Pride Republic, all one word, on Instagram.
I drew this while you were talking. Was that not good?
That's a drawing.
I didn't know you.
Does that count? I don't know if that counts as I
didn't know graphic design was your passion.
If I had a question about whether you were gay and had some artistic sensibility, that question has been answered. I appreciate
some people are just really good allies.
Wow.
I'm really good at being an ally. Luke, thank you so much for being here.
Wait, Luke, do you have a weather report for Sunday?
Oh yeah. Yes.
LAFC weather?
So if you're going to the tailgate, it's going to be hot. It's going to be in the mid 80s and sunny. The breeze will kick up in the afternoon. Pretty standard LA June day. The temps kick off at 6:30, around 80 degrees. It'll be dropping into the 70s. Great shorts weather if you can do it. Don't wear heavy clothes. You'll wish that you hadn't. So it'll be a lovely, lovely evening. And we're gonna win.
All along the way.
I'm just gonna will it into existence. We're gonna beat.
If anyone's wondering, he genuinely just did that off the top of his head. He had no idea I was going to ask that. That was incredible.
All right, Luke, thanks so much for being here. We'll talk to you, I'm sure, after the game. When we come back, we're gonna make some bets.
And we're back. Now it's time for a segment called Bet It and Forget It.
Bet it and forget it.
Every week we end the show with a bet for this week's game. We make an outlandish prediction, something that almost definitely will not happen, but could. Each week we all put up $5. If no one hits, the money rolls over to the next week, and eventually by the time someone's weird prediction comes true, they might win a good chunk of change. No one's bet cash during the Club World Cup. I'm not saying that definitively because I don't remember a single bet we made, but it's probably the case. So the pool for this week is now $45. What were your bets last for the Club?
Mine was that Bouanga would be the top scorer in the group.
Yikes.
Mm-hmm. And the top scorer in the group got 1 goal, right? Is that correct?
Probably.
Yeah. Who is the top scorer in the group? Do we know? Who knows?
I did look up Bouanga's PK record. He has made 3 and missed 2.
Okay. So not great.
Not great.
My bet was that we would get more points from the Chelsea game than the Esperance game. So I wasn't wrong about us fucking up the Esperance game. Yeah. If we got that tie in Chelsea, it could have happened for us.
Yeah.
A lot of things could have been a lot better than they were, is my take.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Tournament football, guys. It's tough.
Luke talking about the march to the stadium or the Pride Parade. When I was marching in Atlanta, it was so fucking hot out. And it's
I'm sure.
humid in Atlanta. Yep. And it was so funny to do it because I know that it's cool and exciting, but Atlanta's No one's on the street near the stadium. So we're just in the middle of the road shooting fireworks. And there's just like a couple of construction workers watching us. I'm like, this is so fucking hard. This is a lot of work.
They're literally building the complex that they want in and around those stadiums. And I only know this because of where I work. But like I know exactly where you were, Travis, and I know how what it looks like right now, and it's not fun at all. It
was like walking on a highway. We were just alone on a highway singing.
Yep.
I feel like 9 out of 10 things that I hear about Atlanta are about the fact that there aren't people anywhere.
There were people around the stadium, just not where we did the march, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, not a walkable city.
No, very much.
I just
the
remembered
belt line, I stayed on the belt line. The belt line is nice and walkable. Highly recommend the belt line.
How was it inside the stadium? Was it hot? Because remember we talked about how they can open and close.
No, they kept it closed. It was closed and it very air conditioned. It was nice. It was a very pleasant experience. The stadium itself is beautiful. Right. Very cool inside.
I just remembered my bet was that LAFC was going to win the group.
Mm-hmm. I mean, on opposite day.
So in the comments, who embarrassed themselves the most? You let us know.
Me, Travis, Vince, or LAFC.
Yes, those are the 4 choices.
I have a bet that I'm very confident in for this week, and it's that Esperance is the best team in the world. It's that Olivier Giroud will play, and he'll score a goal. Olivier Giroud will not only play for LAFC, he will not be transferred this week, and he will score a goal for the club. On maybe his final game, but all I'll say is he'll play and he'll score.
Okay. Then I will go with the quasi DP. Dilrosun will play and he will score. He will score.
That's a good Dilrosun coming out party. I bet he plays a full 90.
I will say this: I do not know as far as I know, the window that was opened up extended to LAFC, and as long as they had a spot which they cleared with Under leaving, that they could do it. And then I'm assuming this player can play, even though it's ahead of the window opening again. The thing that I don't know is what that means. Like, if he plays, does that mean LAFC then is like, well, he's ours and we're gonna have to pay him? I don't know. And I think if that's the case, then he doesn't play.
The initial press release or news reports around it said he is coming over for the tournament, and then they will decide. So there's a world in which he's gone already, and we just don't fucking know.
Yeah. So this is that's why this is a bet. That's why this is a gamble. Yeah. And that's why you shouldn't gamble, kids.
I've got a fun little proposal for you guys. I would like for my bet to be that if both of those players score, I take the full pot.
Oh, this is an awesome bet.
I like that bet a lot. Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Great.
What I love is that one person will feel a lot of joy and have it snatched.
Yes, that's what I'm going for.
Yeah, so like if, let's say, Giroud scores early and Travis is like, this is great.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want my guy to score because now I'm out.
Yeah. There's no way for you to win. As soon as Travis wins, there's no way for you to win.
But then Travis can also be screwed. So like, it just matters who I hate more.
Yeah.
It's very fun.
It's what I like. The only reason I'm cool with it is that the pot is low enough. Like, let's say both Vince and I hit, and you had a different bet. The split pot of $45 is like, who gives a shit, right?
Exactly.
So like, take it. If we're gonna have to split it anyway, take it. All right. Well, those are our bets. Those are fun bets, and we're back to normal, baby. We shall see. That's our show. Our theme music is done by the insane team of James Valentine, Nate Walcott, and Louis Palmer. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel where all of our post games and episodes and clips are available. YouTube.com/@HappyFootSadFoot. If you want to support the show, the 2 best ways to do it are becoming a Patreon subscriber over at Patreon.com/HappyFootSadFoot. Or if you can't afford that, the best way you could help the show is by subscribing on YouTube and liking our videos, and also leaving us a review over at Spotify or Apple Podcasts, preferably a good one. But honestly, just the number of reviews is pretty helpful. And having new reviews, that's how they rank them. It's like, who's getting the new reviews? So just letting you know, you're helping us out when you go over and you take two minutes to leave an Apple Podcast review. You can follow us all the places. We got merch, Darren talked about at the top of the show. Any support goes a long way to keeping the show going and the community growing. We'll see you. I won't be there. You guys going to the game?
I'll be there. I'll be in the press box.
Will not be there.
Well, you have my tickets, Vince. You can sit in my seats.
Oh, yeah, I could do that too.
Will you scan my tickets, actually, to sit in my seats? At least scan my tickets, because they're like, you haven't been using your tickets this year, and I don't want them to take it away from me. Okay. I have been using them.
Okay.
I've just been going to the press box.
I'll make sure one way or another your tickets get scanned.
Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you. I love you. Bye.
I love you. Bye.
What a great way to end the show.
Thank you. I love you. Bye.
Thank you so much.